It's a new year, new opportunities, but we are aware that what we don't know, and so there's things that we have to start and plan, but we only know so much that we can plan. And 2020 taught us that. So systems chats in 2021 with this about being a role model, and what does it mean to be a role model to you. So Calvin, maybe I'm going to pounce on you straight away and just find out what role model mean to you.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you very much. When you talk about being a role model, I have this Facebook group where we set a challenge where we do it now. It's a do it now experiment where you repeat the words do it now in the morning 50 times and then 50 times in the evening. And so we, for the whole of last year, lockdown, we're all doing it indoors. Do it now, do it now, do it now. And then for accountability, we post a video to the Facebook group, a private Facebook group, so people can see it, get encouraged, get inspired, and jump in and do the same as well. So we did it all true. It was going well. And then for whatever reason, I just stopped doing it. November, December, like, nah, like I just pause. And then this morning and yesterday, one of the members in the group, there are 94 people in the group, one of the ladies in the group just went live yesterday and just started the whole process. Do it now, do it now, do it now. Yeah. Is that a book? and I'm like, oh, wow. She's just kicked in. She's doing it. And for me, I just felt pumped and inspired to join in. Meanwhile, it's a group I started. It's a process I started doing it. And all of a sudden, someone else has picked it up and said, you know what? No one's starting it this year. I'm just going to jump in and do it. And that inspired me, to jump in and, again, try and encourage everybody to do it. But for me, I think role model, in other words, I didn't have to say anything to her. She just did it. And as a matter of fact, she's a role model now. I'm following after her. In other words, so it's being a role model really is, it's just showing up. I feel it's just living a life that is exemplary, that people can do it, people can jump in, people can actually want to be like that or do it or do something that you've done. And anybody can be a role model. In this case, it's like I'm jumping in now based on what she's done. She's looked at what we've done in the past and like, I need to do it. And so she's doing it. And now for me, that just, I don't know how to explain that. That just made me feel like, wow, I want to do it now for 2021. I want to take action. And she just jumped in there and inspired everyone. I mean, about 3 or 4 people now have joined in to do it. And so being a role model is just showing up, I think. I think being a role model is showing up. Anybody can be a role model. It's just living a life that touches people in a positive way. Yeah, I think I'll stop there.
Thanks, Calvin. I think that's, you inspired somebody who then inspires you back, and then the effect continues. Yeah, Herman, what had this topic before, but perhaps you can just additional thoughts around what it means to be a role model.
Well, I always thought, particularly in my old age, that I was kind of a role model. But then I did a bit of Googling, and I read one definition, which is a person who is always positive, calm, and confident in themselves. And quite frankly, that's not me. I mean, I have times where I'm anything but calm, where I'm anything but positive, and where I even have sometimes moments where my self-confidence goes out of the window. But so that means not everything Google tells us is correct. because I still believe that I'm a role model in many aspects. For example, I mentioned to you that we have a group that works in agriculture across Africa. And without now trying to really boast or, blow my own trumpet, but one of the main contributors is old Herman. For example, we had a meeting, we meet once a week on a Monday evening. We presently have got 5 business school students, master students, helping us to develop the concept. So they do research and ask questions, develop questionnaires, etc., etc. And and the nice thing was, despite lack of participation from other areas, it was South Africa again, which was best represented, and all the people from South Africa got invited through me. And so they need to accept that there are some things they would like to kind of participate in and emulate. And I think that's what a role model actually is, that others want to emulate your behavior, your approaches, etc., etc. Thank you.
And it's about what is the behavior that and hopefully what you into the world through your actions, or what you're doing in the world through your actions, are the kinds of actions that you want. So, and the difference that you're making. So yes, and I do this narrow definition of what a role model is is not sufficient. That's why we have to have wisdom's chats, to be able to say, no, listen, you can't just read. It doesn't make sense that you get this pinpoint that says, okay, expand that. Yeah. Edward, what do you think?
Yeah, that's what I love about these chats. Is I thought one thing when I started out, and then listening to Kelvin and listening to Herman, I've kind of changed a bit, because I think, and Kelvin's name is very appropriate, and what he said, because I think there's a difference between being inspired by someone and someone being a role model. And I think about my friend Mimi Anderson, who I think she was the first female to run a double comrades. So you run to the start and then you run back again. And then she's done double this, double that, double the other. She holds loads of world records. I find her inspiring, but I don't find her a role model, because I can't, to use Herman's word, emulate her. And with his Googling, I think Herman, hit the point. It's not about being perfect, is it? It's not about being confident all the time, positive all the time. It's about being a human being and being someone that you think you can actually follow and achieve what they're achieving. And Mimi's probably too much out there. Whereas there's another woman I know, she hasn't got a single world record. I don't think she's even run an ultra marathon, but I would call her my role model, because she's committed to her running. She loves her running. She encourages other people to run. And that's what I want to be. So yeah, I think being a role model is living your values, being true to yourself. And I think it's also being different, because why would you choose me as a role model if you could choose anyone? So I think it's being different and doing something slightly different from someone else. And I think you can also have negative role models. My father is my role model. I brought my children up exactly the opposite to how he brought me up. So I think you can have positive and negative role models. But I think it is about being different enough so people want to be like that, but not being so different that you can't achieve it. But those people are inspirational, because you can say, wow, they've gone so far. I can do more than I could do. I couldn't necessarily do what they do, but I could do more. So that's inspiration. And I think role model, I can be like them. And I think to be a role model, you must be true to your values.
Thanks, Edward. Comparison, so that you can actually and to think the difference between what a role model is. Ivan, what do you see as a role model?
Thanks. Yeah, look, I think you know we've touched on the elements, and you know it is 100% correct. You can have completely negative role models. I mean, all you have to do is look at some of the so-called celebrities and you know, personalities that a lot of young people follow on social media and things like that. You know, they are not necessarily positive role models, but they are role models, because those youngsters are seeing, and not only youngsters. I mean, I've seen older people follow some of these people as well, and I sort of ask myself, why would you want to follow somebody like that? You know, what is it that actually you know, resonates within you that says, you know, this is somebody I look up to, somebody I admire, and therefore I want to emulate them. I'm going to dress like them and do my hair like them, and you know, follow their lifestyles as best as I can, you know, within my capacity to do those sort of things. I find it a really strange phenomenon, I suppose, in the modern world, and social media has made it very, very pervasive, that you have, you know, people following these role models, because that's exactly what they are, either by intent or by accident, and they're not positive, they're not healthy, they're not constructive, and you know, for us to try and flip that around and say, you know, what does it mean to be a really good, because all of us are role models, whether we actually realize it or not. There's somebody somewhere looking up to you. There's somebody saying, you know, I want to be able to do what he did or she did. I want to be, you know, like him or her, you know, and you know, I like the way they operate. And I think that comes back to exactly what Ed was saying about values. If you're really true to your values, people will resonate with that as well, and it may not be on the same scale as a celebrity or a personality or something like that, but you know, as Herman and Kelvin have said as well, you know, it's about, you know, can you touch that one person, even if it's unintentionally? And I think you can do that by being true, you know, by being true to values, true to yourself, and honest with yourself. And as Herman says, you don't have to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. We need to really acknowledge and accept the fact that, you know, none of us have it all together and all the time, but there is somebody who's actually watching you, whether you realize it or not, and they're saying, well, I actually want to be like that person. I want to be able to do, you know, must admit, I don't want to run ultramarathons, Ed, so I'm sorry, you're not my role model from that perspective. You know, it is inspirational, and I think there is a difference. And you know, I think you know, I spoke about last time, you know, Stephen Kotler's book. In fact, there are two books. The one is called The Rise of Superman, and the other is called Stealing Fire. And it's about people who do these absolutely extreme things, and the fact that they are breaking boundaries all the time. I mean, you know, often we use the old mantra of the 4-minute mile, you know, and nobody believed that was humanly possible and until it was done. And people are breaking those kind of barriers on a daily basis almost now in the modern world. And they are inspiring people, and they are becoming role models for others who are saying, well, actually, I can surf a 50-foot wave, you know, without being towed out there by a boat. Now, why anybody would want to do that either, I'm not too sure. But, you know, I can jump off a mountain in a wingsuit, you know, and fly at 200 kilometers an hour with no safety nets or parachutes, or, you know, do a double backflip on a ski slope. You know, these sorts of amazing feats that people achieve. Those are all inspirational, and they are role models to some people, but they're not necessarily a general role model, because as Ed says, you know, it might inspire you and say, wow, that's amazing. But are you going to go and try it? No, you're not going to go and try it. You know, you're not in that game, you're not in that sport, you're not in that mode of risking your life. But when you see somebody who's being solid, who's being true to their values, who's really living, you know, a life that's worth, you know, following, and worth role modeling, and is achievable. And I think that's really the key, you know. For people at different levels, different things are seen as achievable, and you know, to run 2 marathons or 2 comrades back to back for 99.9% of people in the world, that's just simply not achievable, you know. So why would I even contemplate it? Does it amaze me? Absolutely. Does it inspire me? Perhaps. But is it something I want to role model? Definitely not, you know. So, you know, and you look at some of the great, you know, the great sort of speakers and motivational speakers and people around the world, you know, the Tony Robbinses and the, you know, people like that, you know, they're inspirational, certainly. Are they necessarily role models? I'm not too sure that they are, because, you know, what they've done and what they've achieved is just way beyond the belief system of people. People want to be inspired by them and want to try and learn from them. But are they truly role models? Yeah, I'm not sure that they are.
Can I just add something? Do you know that the concept of role model is actually relatively new? It only was developed in the 20th century by a sociologist called Robert Merton, who was the father of modern sociology. He developed the concept of role models, unintended consequences, reference groups, self-fulfilling prophecies, etc. It was quite interesting to read that. I would have thought we spoke about role models for the last couple of hundreds of years, but apparently not.
Yeah, you know, maybe the phrase wasn't coined until fairly recently.
Sure.
But I certainly think people have had role models forever.
Absolutely.
You know, that's interesting.
That's why I'm talking about the concept, Ivan.
Yeah, no, sure, 100%. Look, and I think, you know, many of the inspirational stories you read about people who've come from nowhere and have achieved great successes, they've used this concept. You know, they've read autobiographies, you know, diligently. I mean, I think of so another guy's name has gone on my mind. The Australian chap Peter. Will come to me just now. Anyway, he became a real estate billionaire, but at the age of 26, he was functionally illiterate. He was a trench digger, you know, for the municipality, and you know, he came across this concept of you know, learn a new word every day, and he used to walk around with a dictionary in his pocket and would pick a word, and he would stop somebody in the street and say to them, you know, how do I pronounce this word? You know, can you help me? And he worked his way through the entire dictionary that way, and expanded his vocabulary and his knowledge. And later on, he started reading autobiographies, and you know, he'd read over 4,000 autobiographies. And by the time he was in his 60s and 70s, he was an Australian dollar billionaire in real estate. You know, from 26 as a trench digger. You know, so you know, those that modeling and role modeling and using other people's lives to gain knowledge and inspiration, I think you know, has become a real process that people understand, and whether it was done several hundred years ago, probably not. But you know, as Ed said, you know, you might want to role model your father positively or negatively, or an uncle or an aunt, or somebody like that who inspires you to do the opposite or the same. You know, there's a study in one of Tony Robbins' books, I think, Awakening the Giant Within, of the two brothers that grew up in an abusive household. And the one brother said, well, this is my lot in life, and this is the way I'm going to be. And he followed directly in his father's footsteps. The other brother said exactly the opposite. You know, he said, there's no ways I'm going to be like that. I'm going to do exactly the opposite, as Ed was saying. You know, and they were identical twins. So, you know, people say, yeah, it's down to your genes and down to your environment and down to your education. Well, at the end of the day, no, it's not. It's down to the decisions and the choices that you actually make for yourself. And I think enabling people to understand that they have the ability to take those decisions, to make those decisions themselves, to take those choices and change their lives by simply looking at things from a different perspective, I think for me is an incredibly powerful way to look at the role model scenario and the role model opportunities. Looks like Lee might have frozen on us again, so I've been rambling a little bit while seeing if she's going to come back. But yeah, I don't know if any of you would like to add any further thoughts onto that while we wait to see if Lee is back with us.
Well, Ivan, I've never heard you speaking as long as you did today.
I'm here.
Okay, well, over to you.
So I'm back. I don't know if I seem to see myself, but so no.
Yeah, you're coming and going, unfortunately, Lee. So it's sort of in and out. So we're losing bits and pieces.
I'll just write a comment in the box, and
okay. Good. So yeah, let's see what message Lee sends us. But I think we probably start to wrap up and see what's going to be on the cards for next week.
Hear me enough to say that the speaking louder than words.
So I lost a little bit of that, but I'm guessing that actions speak louder than words was what you were trying to say. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So guys, thanks very much. Please spread the message out, and hopefully we can get a few more folk on the call next week. But so actions speak louder than words, and I think Kelvin, you know, you kicked us off with that concept this morning. Just do it, you know. So the actions are what it's about. You know, one can talk, and Herman, that's why I normally don't talk so much. But you know, seeing that we were limited this morning by various issues, filled in some of the spaces. So hopefully that's all good. So yeah, have a great day. Have a great week further, folks. Looking forward to seeing you all next week. Go on.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheerio.
Bye.